The time by Kyrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The business news headlines is brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Grassroots growth, Pan-African trade ambitions, and a controversial tech claim walk back. Hello and welcome to CBX Business News for Thursday, June 26, 2025. I'm Yanil Wood. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, the Social Development Commission pumps over $61 million Jamaican dollars into grassroots businesses in a bid to drive inclusive economic growth across Jamaica. On the regional front, Africa and the Caribbean urge to fast-track direct trade routes as Afreximbank's expansion energizes a $500 billion trade vision. And over on the global stage, Trump Organization dials back its Made in USA claim for its new T1 smartphone amid rising scrutiny. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after this break.
Alphabet down 6, Microsoft down
5. Hi, I'm Nielsen Rose, host of Let's Talk Stocks, reminding you that health is indeed wealth and time is really money. Why not spend a little time with us? Weekday mornings, 9 to 9:30 a.m. for your daily dose of business, economic, and investment insights.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with the latest news in public sector investment locally. The Social Development Commission SDC is significantly expanding economic opportunities for grassroots entrepreneurs through its local economic development-led and special entrepreneurship grants, disbursing more than $61.7 million to small business operators across Jamaica. Director of Local Economic Development at SDC, Avril Ranger, highlighted the agency's commitment to empowering small and micro businesses with targeted financial support during a recent talk with the Jamaica Information Service. The LED grant, a competitive facility, supports local economic initiatives that demonstrate clear growth potential. The Special Entrepreneurship Grant, launched in 2022, targets small and informal business operators lacking resources to apply for larger grants. So far, it has supported over 1,021 entrepreneurs with $46.6 million in funding, with an additional 238 grants currently being processed for this year. Both grants form a vital part of SDC's Local Economic Development Support Program, LED-SP, which aligns with the National Development Priorities and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Tax Administration Jamaica TAJ, in partnership with the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, is ramping up compliance efforts with a property tax special enforcement operation in Spanish Town. The three-day initiative runs from tomorrow, Friday, June 27, to Sunday, June 29, and will focus on 4 communities: Angel Estate, Angels Grove, Frenchman's Heights, and Green Acres. This initiative forms part of a broader effort to improve compliance and collections of property taxes across the island. The Spanish Town operation will focus on delinquent property owners who have not settled their tax obligations despite having the means to do so. The activities planned for the weekend will include door-to-door visits by team members of residents to serve final notices and provide information, the collection of property tax, and the facilitation of payment arrangements at the mobile tax collection units stationed in the communities of Angels Grove and Green Acres. Additionally, compliant residents will be awarded congratulatory letters and tokens. The first phase of the St. Catherine operation, conducted in Portmore, has yielded positive outcomes. As of June 10, exactly 2 days after the operation, the compliance rates of Caribbean Estates and Phoenix Park Phase 1 increased by 92% and 124% respectively when compared to the rates of May 12 last year. TAJ reminds taxpayers that property tax payments can be made conveniently online at its website, jamaicatax.gov.jm, the TAJ mobile app, and NCB online banking. In other news, telecommunications and digital services provider Digicel has released its Environment, Social and Governance ESG report for the financial year 2025, showcasing key achievements and future commitments across its 25 markets in the Caribbean, Atlantic, Central and South America. Anchored in its connecting and empowering vision, Digicel's ESG framework focuses on expanding digital inclusion, driving clean technology adoption, and embedding a culture of integrity and transparency. The company says its commitment is to help bridge the digital divide while powering progress through super-fast, resilient networks. At the core of Digicel's financial year 2025 report is a sharpened focus on 3 impact pillars: equitable access to next-gen digital infrastructure, support for education and special needs communities, and inclusion and equity in its workplaces and customer ecosystems. The company also reports significant progress on the road to net zero, including the rollout of sustainable technologies and a more energy-efficient operating model. Digicel Group CEO Marcelo Cataldo says it's been a year of bold decisions and deliberate actions for Digicel, with a new strategy focused on long-term sustainability, a simplification of operating model, and a commitment to the right culture with their connecting and empowering vision at the center of everything they do. Cataldo says Digicel's network is at the heart of family lives, social lives, business, entertainment, and love lives, and they're right there with customers in every moment. That's a powerful privilege. Now to foreign currency trading news. At the end of Thursday's currency trading, the US dollar is selling for $161.47, the Canadian for $118.43, the pound for $220.24, while the going rate for the euro is $189.13. And from BOJ, we go to Jamaica Stock Exchange for trading news. 106 stocks traded on the JSE Thursday, of which 38 advanced, 38 declined, and 30 traded firm. The winners were led by Sterling Investments US Dollar, Sterling Investments, Caribbean Producers Group, and Stationery and Office Supplies, while leading the losers were KLE Group, Omni Industries, Cygnus Real Estate Finance US Dollar, and 138 student live in Jamaica variable preference. Now the main index advanced by 1,791.42 points or 0.58% to close at 311,346.70. The junior market index also advanced by 19.73 or 0.58% to close at 3,397.43. And it's time for our market education feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standard. In today's market education feature, we'll be taking a look at the term marketable securities. Marketable securities are highly liquid financial assets that can be easily converted into cash without a significant loss in value. Their liquidity is primarily due to their short-term maturities, typically under 1 year, and the minimal impact that buying or selling them has on their market prices. Stocks, bonds, preferred shares, and ETFs are among the most common examples of marketable securities. The market education feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standard. And that's it for our market education feature and the end of the local segment. Please stay with us. The regional business news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Introducing the Corporate Services Unit, your go-to experts for corporate secretarial solutions. We offer statutory compliance, efficient minute taking, registered office address services, management of board and members meetings, setup and maintenance of corporate registers. Stay ahead with our proactive approach to new regulations. We operate under the Trust and Corporate Service Provider, licensed to the JCSD Trustee Services Limited. We're here to simplify your corporate journey, no matter the size of your company. Contact the Corporate Service Unit today and let's streamline your compliance journey together, because your success is our business.
Welcome back, and now for news from across the region. Group Chief Executive Officer of Oando PLC, Wale Tinubu, is calling for a bold reset in Africa-Caribbean trade relations, urging both regions to establish direct air and sea routes to unlock an estimated US $500 billion in trade over the next decade. Speaking at the Afrexim Bank annual meeting on Wednesday, the Nigerian businessman challenged both governments and private sector players to address critical logistical barriers, including the absence of direct shipping lanes and commercial flights between Africa and the Caribbean.
We don't have direct trading routes on shipping, so our shipping cost is higher, right? We don't have direct airlines because there hasn't been the demand exists because Africans fly to Dubai, we fly to Europe, we fly to South Africa. Why don't we fly to St. Kitts and Jamaica and that? So I feel that the first step really is us getting to know our market.
While policymakers debate connectivity, African businesses are already moving cargo, especially oil, directly to the Caribbean. The Nigerian executive called for these wet cargo routes to be expanded into dry cargo and manufactured goods.
We've already started shipping oil directly from the Caribbean into Africa and vice versa. We're doing it in private sector. So no reason why we can't transfer those direct routes from wet cargo into dry cargo into shipping. And I'm extremely optimistic that we're on the right track.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian CEO is projecting that African-Caribbean trade could surge to US $500 billion over the next 10 years, provided both regions commit to strategic infrastructure and investment partnerships. According to Mr. Tinubu, this projection is not just aspirational but entirely achievable if governments and private sector players take immediate steps to scale up inter-regional investments in energy, commodities, and manufacturing.
If you look at it from a point of view of a multiplier effect, if they do it and the Caribbean institutions start, and we start with shipping, we start with oil, which I do. I'm already doing investments in the Caribbean. We're looking at Guyana, Trinidad. We're doing interesting things already there. And we've moved to commodities and manufactured goods. And everybody takes his own center of excellence. There's no reason why we can't have $500 billion worth of trade over the next 10 years.
Group Chief Executive Officer of Oando PLC, Wale Tinubu. And in a surprise move that signals a major shift in monetary leadership, veteran banker and former finance minister Larry Hawaii has been appointed governor of the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, CBTT. The announcement came just one day after Cabinet requested that the president revoke the appointment of outgoing governor Dr. Alvin Hilaire, effective immediately. The Ministry of Finance has promised further details on the decision in the coming days, but has so far remained tight-lipped on the rationale behind the sudden dismissal. Finance Minister Devendranath Tanku formally presented the instrument of appointment to Hawaii on Wednesday, praising his proven financial experience and outstanding track record in both the public and private sectors. Hawaii's appointment comes as a critical juncture for the Twin Island Republic. The economy is facing heightened inflationary pressures, capital market uncertainties, and renewed scrutiny from international financial watchdogs. As governor, he will be tasked with anchoring investor confidence, safeguarding the independence of monetary policy, and advancing financial sector reforms. And still with TNT, but this time trading news from the TTSE. 17 securities traded on the TTSE Thursday, of which 3 advanced, 9 declined, and 5 trading firm. Today's winners were National Flour Mills, the West Indian Tobacco Company, and Ansa McCall, while leading the losers were Guardian Media, Prestige Holdings, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and National Enterprises. Other results include the All TNT Index declining by 2.88 to close at 1,504.62. The Composite Index declining by 1.66 to close at 1,035.64. And the Cross-Listed Index also declined, but by 0.05 to close at 74.73. And still remaining at 91.81 is the SME Index. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment with Nielsen Rose is up next.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books
and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, the US economy shrank at an annualized rate of 0.5% in the first quarter of 2025, a sharper contraction than the previously estimated 0.2% decline, marking the first quarterly downturn since early 2022. The revised GDP figure reflects a significant downward adjustment to consumer spending and exports. Consumer spending rose just 0.5%, the slowest pace since the pandemic-era declines of 2020, down from the earlier estimate of 1.2%. Export growth also revised sharply lower to 0.4% when compared to the initial 2.4%. These declines were only partially offset by a downward revision in imports, which rose 37.9% instead of the previously reported 42.6%. The surge in imports was largely attributed to business and consumer stockpiling goods in anticipation of price hikes linked to the new tariffs. The Trump Organization has updated the marketing language for its newly announced T1 smartphone, stepping back from its original claim that the device was made in the USA. When the T1 was first unveiled, the website prominently featured a banner stating the phone was made in the USA and available for pre-order. However, that language has now been replaced with more ambiguous phrases like American Proud Design, brought to life right here in the USA, and American Hands Behind Every Device. These changes come amid skepticism from industry experts who questioned the feasibility of manufacturing a smartphone entirely in the US, given the country's limited infrastructure for producing key components. Some analysts have speculated that the T1 may be a rebranded version of a Chinese-made device, such as the Rev VL 7 Pro 5G. The U.S. trade deficit in goods widened to $96.6 billion in May, an 11% increase from April's $87 billion. According to an advanced estimate, the rise came despite flat overall imports as exports fell 5.2%, driven by sharp declines in industrial supplies, which was down 13.6%, and food products down 2.2%. Consumer goods and automotive exports posted gains of 11% and 3.5% respectively. On the manufacturing front, new orders for U.S. manufactured goods surged 16.4% to $343.6 billion in May, the largest monthly increase since July 2014. The spike was fueled by a 230.8% jump in non-defense aircraft orders and strong gains in capital goods. Excluding transportation, orders rose a modest 0.5%, while core capital goods orders, excluding aircraft, rose 1.7%, signaling robust business investments. Meanwhile, corporate profits fell 3.3% in Q1, reversing a 5.9% gain in the previous quarter. Undistributed profits dropped 11%, while net cash flow declined 4.3%. However, net dividends rose 1.8% and year-over-year profits were up 5.5%, reflecting underlying resilience despite quarterly volatility. FedEx Corporation delivered stronger than expected results for its fiscal fourth quarter, reporting adjusted earnings per share of $6.07 on revenue of $22.2 billion, surpassing Wall Street's estimates. The logistics giant also announced it had successfully achieved its ambitious $4 billion cost-cutting target under its Drive transformation program and plans to trim an additional $1 billion in the upcoming fiscal year. The company's operating income rose to $2.02 billion on an adjusted basis, up from $1.87 billion a year earlier, while its adjusted operating margin improved to 9.1% from 8.5%. Despite the strong quarter, FedEx issued profit guidance for the current quarter that came in slightly below analysts' expectations, citing continued macroeconomic uncertainty and freight market softness. Still, the company remains optimistic about its long-term transformation strategy, which includes integrating its networks and reducing its cost to serve. FedEx also returned $4.3 billion to shareholders during fiscal 2025 through stock repurchases and dividends, underscoring its commitment to shareholder value. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Neil for your recap.
Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited has been a part of Jamaica's manufacturing landscape for over 20 years. By crafting unique flavors and fragrances, we have become a part of your favorite household and food items such as beverages, ice cream, household cleaners, and much more. Known throughout the Caribbean for the highest quality, we continue to innovate with strong leadership, a dedicated team with integrity. We go the extra mile for our customers. Create the next taste sensation. Contact us at 876-9235-111 or visit our website, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn pages.
Welcome back, and now to recap our top stories. Social Development Commission pumps over $61 million into grassroots businesses. Regionally, Africa and the Caribbean urged to fast-track direct trade routes. And internationally, Trump dials back its Made in USA claim for its new T1 smartphone. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Neil Wood, thanking you for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.